The year I was president was the year that Rotary International started to allow women in the Rotary Club. And I must say that we didn't have any women my year, but immediately after I was president, there was a women member, which I was glad to see.
I started the meeting with a joke. Everybody would stand up, and then I would tell a joke. And of course, even before I started telling the joke, I was booed. You know, the crowd would boo, you know, see. But I knew it went over because when I went out in the community, I'd hear the jokes from the wives. The wives would say, well, we got your joke today, you know. And so I know the husbands were going home and telling the wives. So it went over even though I got booed all the time. One of the ladies would sit in the front of the front row and she would go like that. And I'd say, why are you doing that? She said, that's a sexist joke, you know, see. But she had jokes that were worse than mine.
President, I used to call on people, just pick their name out of the bowl and call on them and say, could you repeat the four-way test? And so you get all these guys pulling their notes out and starting to say, okay, and all sweating to see who's going to be called next.
I was proud of the membership. I'm proud of the people who dedicate themselves to the community. And one of the projects that I undertook as president was the renovation of the president's residence at the University of Louisville. The Swains had left, the Schumachers actually were there, and the house was in great disrepair. So the Rotary Club got together and used all of its resources and Claire Alasia with Bittner's convinced Owsley Frazier that this would be a good idea to help renovate the home. I didn't realize that the home once belonged to his mother, and that's why it's called Amelia's Place. But it is the president's residence, and I think Mr. Frazier thought he was going to put about $100,000 into the project, and $1 million later, the university has a very proud structure, and we had a black tie dinner to celebrate the opening of the home, and I think that will be a legacy that will live for a good amount of time.
I, as the first and only woman president of Rotary, I felt it was important to just to let people understand that working with a woman is not any different from working with a man. And I had a business focus, so we had our focus for programs the whole year was top business people, and we pulled in really top business people from around the country. And we did trips that involved business Rotary get-togethers. We did, my favorite was UPS at midnight and doing the tour of the UPS facilities.
The opportunity came up for us to build one of the cottages at the embryonic Home of the Innocents that was going to open up at the east end of town, and in an exciting news story that they had because they had some government money. What they really needed was for someone or some institution to give them $250,000 to build a cottage where some of the students could live right there on the campus. And we were able to come up with that $250,000. So the Rotary Club of Louisville, in that time, that was a big chunk of activity for us as a small club to do. Thank God we had two key leadership investors to get this thing off the ground, Baylor Landrum and Henry Heiser, and they did. And that kicked it off with $100,000 combined from those two plus the $150,000 that the club invested as a result of some activity and programs that we created that year. And that was fun.
I guess I'm most proud of the fact that during my administration we raised the $250,000 for the hospital for our Home of the Innocents. And it was a huge project. I mean, everybody was involved. We had all these extra committees, and we had all these people stepping up and just taking leadership positions, and it was a crazy year. And and yet we met our goal by the hardest.
I got to play in the Ohio State Marching Band when I was in college, and they came to town for the Pegasus Parade in the spring of my presidential year, and actually marched into the Galt House and serenaded us for about 20 minutes before the meeting, and got to say hello to the director and meet my counterpart in row C, position 2 in the band, and it had great fun.
It was also the year of Hurricane Katrina, which Rotary, when you think of many times Rotary makes contributions around the world with the United States Rotarians, but it was a time when Rotary around the world turned to the United States and made a lot of contributions to help Rotarians in Louisiana and the Mississippi Gulf Coast. And so it was a time when things turned towards the United States instead of maybe towards the rest of the world.
The thing that we did was to create the Service Above Self Award, and I really like that, because I think people who serve the public in a very public way, whether it's police or whether it's fire, EMS or whatever it is, I think it's good to have them recognized. But what I thought was particularly good was to have them selected by their own folks, because we said, look, we have an award for you. It's a monetary award as well as a plaque or trophy award. And we want you to pick the best of this year, and you bring them forward. And it was interesting because they gave us just great folks. But also the people who had picked them, the chiefs and the commanders, showed up to celebrate that particular moment for that particular person out of that particular agency. So it was good for that year. There are other awards that recognize that public service and that outstanding public service. But I thought that a Service Above Self award for one of our true public servants was a good thing to do. I was very proud of that.
The economy really tanked my year. And so we had some issues like that to deal with, like any other business does. We're not really a business, but you have to run the club like a business. And so we had some issues like that we addressed very well with Henry's help and the help of Greg Braun and others. So, you know, and we just had a lot of fun. Our project that year was Blessings in a Backpack, which I was really proud to be able to support them. That was one of the first years that program was just beginning to get off the ground.
But I think the Louisville Rotary Promise Scholarship is our major event for this club in our history. We want to raise $4 million, and that would be $1 million per high school. And we were targeting the lowest performing high schools in Jefferson County. And we heard today from the principal of Western, which has had tremendous dropout rates, very low going to college interest and rates, and he's turned that around already. And I think our focus today, where the 9th graders will be told in about 2 months, when they come to school as their first day of high school, that if they can graduate with a 2.5 average, get 90% attendance and good citizenship, that they will have a free college education.
Rotary is composed of 1.2 million people, 200 countries, 34,000 clubs. The population of Rotary 10 years ago was 1.2 million. The population today is 1.2 million. So what happened? We had 1.2 million people come in and 1.2 million people go out. So do you want a Rotary turnstile? No, I didn't. So my objective this year was a retention. How can you make a Rotarian happy? How can you keep him informed? If he's informed, he's involved. If he's involved, he's engaged. And then you have a happy Rotarian. It takes good meals and programs to help, but that doesn't. And if you have retention, then you don't have this turnstile, people coming and going.
Rotary, you have access to the top people in the community. So I would every week pick who I wanted to have lunch with, and I would pick Wilson Wyatt, I would pick Henry Heiser Sr., I would pick George Gill, and he hated women, so that was always a funny one. But I really really got to know them, and they appreciated me, and I could call them anytime, and I ended up with really good business advice from some of the top business people in Louisville, and Rotary opened that door for me, and I couldn't have had that door opened otherwise. So
what it's about is really helping people, and there's no higher calling, I don't think, in terms of being a human being and being here than to help others. And that's really at the essence of Rotary. That's what we do. This club is blessed to be as large as it is, and we help a lot of people locally, we help a lot of people regionally, we help a lot of people nationally, and we help a lot of people internationally, people that we will never ever see. And it's such a blessing to have an opportunity and to have an institution like Rotary where we can do that. And you can do it all right here from Louisville, Kentucky.
One that comes to my mind was the guy was painting the church, and he was running low on paint, so he thinned the paint out, you know, see, with a little bit of water, and put it up there, and he finally got the steeple done, and he was stepping back, and he was really proud with how well he did. And about that time, a big cloud comes over, you know, and with the torrent of rain comes down and washes the church off, and the steeple is washed off. And then this mighty voice, the paint is all washed off the steeple. And this mighty voice comes out of the cloud. It says, "Repaint and thin no more."
I like that. As a person